Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, high school sweethearts reunite years later, marry, and build a life together. Husband supports wife's influencer career. Shocked to discover wife's affair with another influencer, he exposes them on social media and ends the marriage. Despite initial blame, he moves on, learning from the experience. She faces consequences as clients drop her. He vows to heed red flags in the future. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I were high school lovers at one time. We were the cutest and hottest lovers in school back then, but because she got entangled with one of the popular boys I did not like. Forced to break up by entangled, I caught her kissing the boy after high school. I went to college the following year, and I never really saw her again until some years later. That night I went out with one of my friends who was having a bachelor's party, and coincidentally, Nancy was there. At first, I didn't recognize her because it had been years, but when she walked to my table and introduced herself, everything I felt for her back in high school returned. She had completed college and was currently working in the same town as me. So that night we chose to iron out whatever issues we had in the past, and we became friends again. I was hurt by what Nancy had done, but part of me still wanted her back. We exchanged contacts that night, and we began to talk to each other more. Then from there, we started going out and dating again. While going out together, we got intimate, and that's when we both realized that we still had feelings for each other. I did my best to hold back because I didn't want her to take me for granted. But when she confessed that she still wanted me, we made it official and started dating again. We dated for almost a year, and after that we got married. Most of our high school friends were surprised that we got back together, and they ensured they attended the wedding. The wedding was fun, and the best part was seeing faces we had not seen in a long time. Nancy was pretty famous, and she was a social media addict. She got paid to influence brands, use, and talk about products and so much more. So aside from doing her day job, she also made money online, though she earned more money than I did. I didn't have a problem with that, but I didn't allow that to stop me from doing my responsibilities as a husband. I provided for the house and got her whatever she wanted. We agreed that we wouldn't have children in the first 2 years of our marriage because we wanted to make up for the lost time by spending more time with each other and doing the things we said we would do while we were teenagers. We believed we would get married, and we did. I was a very supportive husband, and most times Nancy gave me access to her Facebook page to help create content whenever she was busy. Since content creation was easy for me, I never complained about her always being on her phone because I knew it was one of her means of earning. Whenever she was busy, I'd help around the house, cook, go grocery shopping, or if we were both tired of cooking, I'd order takeouts or we'd eat out. So in my own way, I did everything I could to make her enjoy our marriage, feel comfortable, and still have the freedom to do the things she used to do before we got married. While I struggled to balance my work life and marriage life to make Nancy happy, I never knew that my wife was having an affair with another influencer she met on Facebook until something happened. The funny thing was, she had mentioned the guy a couple of times, and the crazy number of followers he had, but I just thought she was stalking her fellow influencers. One day, I was at home taking my day off when I got a call from a truck company that they were towing my car. As confused as I was, I asked for the location and I went down there only to realize that it was my wife's car, but the company called me because the car was registered under my name. I was shocked to see my wife's car there because her office was only a 30-minute drive from the house, but that location was an hour away from home. I didn't get it because she was supposed to be at work at that time, and I looked around for the sign of a women's store or nail salon, but I didn't see any, and she didn't also mention anything about going for shopping before leaving the house that morning. Then, while trying to talk to the truck company guys, I saw my wife coming from one corner with her hands wrapped around the influencer guy's waist. The moment she saw me, she gasped and was surprised to see her car being towed away. I was really heartbroken because, from the body language I saw, It was evident that the two of them had been intimate with each other. Without waiting for an explanation, I began to video the both of them, but the guy kept saying, "Sir, this means nothing. We were just having fun and she's all yours." And he was embarrassed by the number of people that began to turn heads. Finally, out of anger and disappointment, I yelled at them and asked Nancy if she had fun with other men to become their influencers, but she said nothing and began to cry. When her car was successfully towed away, I went into my car and drove off without her. I saw her fighting with the guy from the rearview mirror, but I already knew it was over between us. I got home and posted the video on her Facebook page because I had access to it, and I tagged the other influencer guy. I knew the post would be taken down, but before it was many people had seen it and commented on it. She tried to beg me when she came home, but she met her stuff scattered by the door. I asked her to pack her things and leave, and she did. She obviously had something for famous guys so she could go on and live the life she wanted. We divorced shortly after that. I blamed myself for being so stupid. I ignored the red flag and believed she must have changed. But Nancy would always be Nancy. The news of our divorce affected her influencing business, and most of her clients closed their contracts with her, and the influencer cut her off for ruining his career. But she deserved everything she got. I've moved on now, and I'll be careful enough not to ignore red flags again in the future. Today's second story. In this story, OP discovers his wife's emotional and potentially physical infidelity through messages on her phone. Feeling hurt and betrayed, he confronts the situation calmly but firmly, opting for divorce. Despite her attempts to reconcile, including involving her mother, he remains resolute. He reflects on their marriage, feeling that communication and honesty could have saved it. Ultimately, he feels let down after years of effort to maintain their family. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I were married for 16 years. At the time of this story, we had 2 children ages 8 and 11. Our eldest would occasionally watch videos on mom's smartphone with our youngest watching beside him. I guess we were a pretty average family. I worked full-time while my wife worked part-time and oversaw the house and child rearing. I would help, of course, but our children saw their mother more than me. Over time, our relationship became emotionally distant. It was tiring enough keeping up our daily charade. Despite this, I thought my wife was happy. I went to bed thankful each night for my family, shelter, and security. My wife and I were proud of the savings we built for our children's future. I joked with her often, saying we were living the American dream. A dream without emotional connection or spontaneity. It was January, so it was cold, and we were digesting the huge financial bite we took to give our kids a great Christmas. I was already planning our summer getaway. The kids were going to a summer camp while the missus and I were going to Las Vegas. I told myself I didn't care what happened in Vegas as long as my wife and I connected emotionally and physically. From January to May, I tried talking to my wife. We went on bike rides as a family, and it really was therapeutic. It became something we did every day, but when it came to talking, my wife didn't have much to say to me. She did, however, have a lot to say to a complete stranger. While she cooked dinner, I sat on the couch with our kids as they watched a video on her phone. I saw a notification pop up from Abel. It was on an app one never heard of, and the message said something like, "You never know what the future holds." My son swiped the notification away, but I took the phone from him, telling him to play hide and seek with his sister. While my wife cooked and my kids entertained themselves, I frantically looked through the phone. I found several notifications leading to the messages between my wife and Abel. They were part of some kind of support group, but I wasn't sure what for. Their messages never turned sexual, but it was certainly heartwarming. My wife said she wished he lived closer to her so they could meet up. In earlier messages, she explained she was struggling to maintain motivation for her marriage and went on to complain about me. The only things to really complain about were how much I worked and that I always said the same things. She didn't feel like she had anything new to say either, which made her feel like our relationship had nothing to offer us anymore. In response to that, AP scooped in. He said he could always be in her life, to bring her solace and hope for the future. He said now that they met, He wanted to be whatever she needed him to be in her life. He never had children, but said he always wanted to be a supportive father figure. I was extremely uncomfortable. This man was close to my wife and far too willing to step in if she called on him. I took screenshots of everything and returned her phone, saying it was in between the couch cushions. I could tell she was nervous that I even had her phone. I didn't want my wife to be talking with this guy, but I also didn't know what to say. It felt like anything I took the time to say would be wasted breath because I was still me. I didn't think I could make her see me for who I was, her lover, best friend, and father to her children. It was up to her to see me for who I was, but she'd forgotten what made her fall in love with me in the first place. I returned home from work the next day to find my wife super nervous and chittery. She got defensive with me after the first question I asked her. Annoyed, I decided to go for a run alone. I only managed to walk to the end of our street before I heard something and turned around. It was a man leaving my house in a hurry, holding his shoes and belt. I ran over to him just as he closed the door and started the car. I laid on the hood to stop him from leaving. He rolled down his window a little with his heart, visibly pounding his chest, asking me what I was doing. I asked if he was a ball. He just looked extremely fearful. I asked what he was doing with my wife, and he just started begging me not to fight him. I told him I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to know the truth. It was a ball here to see my wife, but only has a supportive friend. I asked him why then. Was he holding his belt and shoes? He hesitated, and his chest started heaving again. I told him I'd give him something to fear if he didn't tell me what I wanted to know. With that, he admitted to having intimate with her, but only because she wanted him to, and he promised never to see her again. I got off the hood as he said he didn't realize what he was getting himself into. He swore one more time, never to speak to her again, before speeding off. My wife was standing on the porch, speechless. She watched me walk towards her with my head hanging down. I told her I didn't want to fight him. I was divorcing her, and she needed to pack her stuff. She started freaking out. I prevent a lady, asking me about the kids and what would happen next. I didn't have anything to say to her. She called her mother on speakerphone to try to convince me to forgive her and stay married. But I told her mother everything that happened. She sounded so disappointed that she hung up immediately and apparently had no interest in talking to her daughter. Her daughter broke vows and refused to work with me for the betterment of our marriage. She lost her house due to me kicking out, lost her husband, and lost parental support because of her actions. Instead of forming a relationship with another man on her phone, she should have started over with me. She could have just dropped her defenses and normal way of thinking to be honest with me. No matter how much it might have hurt, discussing what drove her apart from me might have made all the difference and saved our family. I did the best I could over those 16 years and honestly never expected her to stoop so low. I always made myself available to her and tried to keep her happy, but it wasn't enough. If she just would have been patient and considerate, I know we could have repaired our relationship on vacation and over time.